Back in 1992, I did my first illustrated life and times book on Billy the Kid. That was followed quickly by one on Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday. I've done books on Wild Bill Hickok and others. One of my biggest plans was to do Geronimo, the illustrated life and times of Geronimo. And here we are 24 years later, and I'm finally getting back to doing this book. One of the things I've tried to do in the illustrated life and times of Geronimo is to show all sides of the story, and that is not easy because out here on the frontier in those times, there was killing by everyone, and I mean everyone. Sometimes the Spanish against the Americans, so-called, sometimes against the Mexicans against the Spanish, sometimes the Apaches versus everyone, and sometimes tribe versus tribe. And one of the things that I pride myself in is telling the truth, warts and all. One of the advantages I've had doing True West Magazine is having a friendship with Robert G. McCubbin, various other people who are collectors of photographs. With knowing Bob and being able to scan off of the original photo, you can see details you have never seen before. It's like being right there. One of the most amazing photographs is from the Canyon de los Embudos series of photographs that C.S. Fly took. He was from Tombstone, and he was able to go take these extraordinary photographs of Apaches who were on the warpath and wearing war paint. That had never happened before. This was a coup in terms of photographs. In one of the photographs, Geronimo is carrying a rifle which he later stood off 31 vaqueros in a cave south of Nogales, Arizona, and shot 3 of the men in the head with a single-shot rifle, and they gave up and left. We've always seen Geronimo kneeling with the rifle is the most famous, probably, photograph of a Native American on the planet. But there's one of him standing. Now, recently, we ran an article on Chato, who was a friend of Geronimo's for 30 years, and then they became mortal enemies. Well, we ran a photograph of Chato standing with a rifle, and one of our readers pointed out they're holding the same rifle, they're both got the same scarf on, it's taken in the same studio by the same photographer. This is a very controversial story. Geronimo is known today as a patriot and a hero, but that wasn't always true. He was a demon in the beginning. He was a cold-blooded killer. He was seen as the worst thing that ever happened on the frontier and had to be dealt with. And that story is not pretty. We have a tendency to put halos on killers and give them virtues and powers that they never had in real life. And that's the story I set out to tell in the illustrated life and times of Geronimo.